The gunfight that inspired this story happened in Tombstone on October 26, 1881, and involved lawmen Wyatt, Virgil, and Morgan Earp, alongside Doc Holliday facing members of the group known as the Cochise County Cowboys, including the Clanton and McClory brothers. The fight lasted only seconds. About 30 shots were fired, and 3 cowboys died. The event and its aftermath are well documented and have been widely written about and dramatized. Fremont Street at dawn. The sun had not yet burned the chill from Tombstone's alleys. Frost silvered the wooden boards, and a scatter of tumbleweed lay like a promise of motion. Out on Fremont Street, the saloon doors were shut tight, and someone, somewhere, kept the horses restless. I, Clara Mayfield, laundress and keeper of small truths, had been told by more than one man to mind my own business. I didn't. Some things you can't unsee, and some things you can't let sleep. I had come early to the photographer's shop to fetch a roll of linen for a widow whose husband had left for Benson with the stage and not come back. The dark window glass of C.S. Fly's studio threw back my lantern as if the town were a bowl of coal, and I a single ember. A scrape of boots, voices low and tense, men who were always on the edge of something large enough to break. They said there was talk of enforcing the ordinance, no weapons to be carried into town. The Earps, Virgil in his taller coat, Wyatt with the steely set his brother always had said they would see the law kept. Doc Holliday, gaunt and pale from illness and whiskey, rolled a cigarette as if he were turning a coin. The Cowboys, Clantons and McClorys, said the law did not concern them outside their fences. So the stories went. And stories are how a town remembers itself until a day like this makes memory a scar. Historical note: the ordinance and the enforcement decision were a key spark for the confrontation. When they stepped into the lot behind Fly's studio, for a breath, the world seemed to hold itself in a place where a man's conscience meets the barrel of a gun. I had been 5 steps behind a photographer's boy, hiding the hem of my skirt in my fist because some mannered fear told me not to be seen. The men faced one another as 2 storms, 6 feet, maybe less, separated good and bad in that narrow wash of light. I don't pretend to know whose eye moved first. I only know the sound. A hard, wet clap, and then another, as if somebody had struck a hide with a palm. 30 iron whispers in 30 seconds. Men who had laughed and cursed and drunk the same whiskey dropped like props. The smell of gun smoke was the smell of metal and old money. When the smoke cleared, 3 lay still. The rest were hurt, or running or swearing. For a town that liked its legends, there was little time to finish the story. Contemporary reports recorded about 30 shots fired in perhaps 30 seconds and 3 deaths. They put the bodies in the undertaker's window and put a sign over them: "Murdered in the streets of Tombstone." People came from besides town to watch the funerals. The McClorys and Billy Clanton had processions for which the sidewalks couldn't hold the watchers. For many, this was the end of lawlessness. For others, it was the beginning of a vendetta. I watched the Earps walk by, their faces hard as cracked leather. They had done what they thought the law required, but the law, in Tombstone, liked to make enemies. Public reaction and funeral details were widely published at the time. After that, the town remembered differently. Virgil lay ambushed and badly hurt months later. Morgan was shot through a saloon door and didn't live to bury the rest of himself. Wyatt, who had long wandered from job to job, from lawman to gambler, took it on himself to see justice in his own way. He was a man used to other people deciding the shape of his life, and when the law's wheel would not turn as he thought right, he set his foot upon it. History would print names like Earp and Holliday in bold, and the newspapers would tell both sinners' and saints' versions of the same thing. The subsequent attacks on Virgil and the killing of Morgan are part of the documented aftermath. Walking home that dusk, I saw reenactors 5 decades from then, polishing their pistols and practicing the famous pause before the shot. Tombstone will always sell the memory, the spectacle of violence pressed into a souvenir. But in that narrow lot behind the studio, there were no posters, no scripts, only men who woke and carried their choices like stones. I keep a scrap of the epitaph folded into my Bible, and when the child of that widow falls asleep, I tell him how the town learned to live with the echo of a single morning. Some stories turn towns into myths. Others bury truth beneath their boards. Modern reflections on Tombstone's memory and reenactments show how the event was transformed into legend and tourism. If you ask me whether Wyatt was a hero or a murderer, I'll answer like the washed cloth on my line, both and neither. Men are as complicated as these streets, and the law, like the sun, throws long shadows when it goes down. The town chose its story later. I hold to the day I saw, when boots and breath and a single poor woman's linen were all that testified to what men were willing to risk for their idea of right.